All right, so we're diving into Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince today. And I bet you're here because you're wondering, like, is it really worth the read? Especially after that massive Order of the Phoenix.
Straight up, it is. It's not just another book. It's where things get, well, serious, darker,
Yeah.
more complex. Like the characters really start digging deep. So if you're into the world and everyone in it, this one's going to grab you.
That's good to hear.
Mhm.
But Order of the Phoenix was intense, right?
Right?
Long, political, the whole thing. This one goes even further.
Yeah, totally. The reviewer we're looking at actually recommends it more for like older teens, cause those heavier themes.
Right.
Makes sense though, right? Like Order of the Phoenix was already getting us ready for something more mature, both with plot and how everyone's feeling.
Okay, I see that. It was like Harry Potter meets like a government office or something with all the politics. So how does Half-Blood Prince handle all that darkness then?
Well, the magic itself is darker, for one. More powerful, I guess. You know that scene where they're getting a Horcrux? The way it's described, the magic, it's a whole other level compared to, like, the spells we saw early on. Shows how dangerous Voldemort's getting and what they gotta do to stop him.
Makes sense? So what about how it's written? Does that change too to fit the mood?
Absolutely. One reviewer actually compared the Voldemort backstory stuff to, get this, William Faulkner.
Whoa, okay. That sounds intense.
Right. It might seem weird, but the storytelling here goes deep. Like, with flashbacks, we see Voldemort as a kid understand how he became, well, Voldemort.
Huh. So not just your typical young adult fantasy then, huh? But Faulkner. Are we talking crazy symbols and like super complicated writing?
No, not really. More about, like, the psychology. Rowling unravels Voldemort's past, not just what he did, but why he did it. The pain, the rejection. It turns him into a much better bad guy.
Okay, starting to get it. But for someone who might be kind of scared of a darker Harry Potter, what would you say?
Don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. This book also nails the everyday life of witches and wizards. Harry still has normal teenage stuff to deal with, like crushes and friends changing. There's even this funny bit with Ron and love potions, which goes hilariously wrong. It's these lighter parts that make everyone feel like real people, people you can relate to.
Yeah, so it's a mix, right? The darker magic stuff, Voldemort's messed up past, but then also those kind of normal, awkward teenage moments and even some laughs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so good. Those everyday things keep the story grounded, so when their world's in danger, it feels even, well, more serious.
Right, right. Like, I loved the Quidditch stuff in the early books, even with all the crazy magic going on. It was like normal. Does Half-Blood Prince have stuff like that, those little breaks?
Oh, totally. We see them doing homework, dealing with friends, even the romance stuff starting.
Mm.
There's this one scene, Harry and Ron mess around with love potions. It's a disaster, but hilarious. It's those moments that make them feel like, well, like real teenagers.
Okay, that does sound pretty cute. You mentioned romance, though. That's a big one for, like, a lot of readers.
Yeah.
This is where Harry and Ginny finally happen, right?
Yeah. And the reviewer actually really liked how it happens. It's not just, bam, they're in love. It builds slowly. They go through things together, respect each other, get each other's weaknesses.
I've been on Team Harry and Ginny since, like, book 2. But for someone who hasn't read the other books, will they even get why it matters so much?
That's a good question. It does explain some stuff, but you'd miss a lot of the background, Like starting a TV show halfway through, you kind of get it, but not really.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So for someone totally new, intrigued by all this, where should they start?
The beginning. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, it sets everything up, the characters, the world, all the big ideas like friendship, bravery, good versus evil, the whole thing.
Right, got to start at the start. But what about someone who reads a lot of fantasy, thinks Harry Potter's too? I don't know, Kitty.
Don't be so sure. This series gets deep, especially Half-Blood Prince. There's loss, betrayal, what war does to people, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Can you give an example? Because sometimes mature themes in YA can feel kind of fake,
Not here. Harry's dealing with his godfather dying, Sirius, and the whole chosen one thing weighs on him. He makes hard calls. People's lives depend on him. He questions authority, deals with tough choices, faces the darkness inside himself even.
Whoa, now that's interesting. Makes me want to reread it with, like, new eyes. Seems there's way more going on than I first thought.
Exactly. That's what makes Half-Blood Prince so good. Layers to unpack, stuff to think about, characters to analyze, even after you're done reading.
Speaking of things to unpack, for a mystery lover, is there enough of that here? I always love trying to figure out Snape, is he good, is he bad, the whole thing.
for sure. Who is the Half-Blood Prince? That's a mystery running through the whole book. And yeah, Snape. Still don't know whose side he's on. Rowling's amazing at that. Keeps you guessing till the very end.
Sounds like the perfect mix. Mystery, growing up stuff, epic magic battles. Any other books you'd compare it to?
The tone and how good and bad get kind of blurry. It's a little like A Wizard of Earthsea, Ursula K. Le Guin. Both go deep on magic, hard choices young characters gotta make with all that power. And, of course, there's some Lord of the Rings vibes. The huge war, good versus evil playing out.
Okay, now those are some serious comparisons. Earthsea is a classic, and Lord of the Rings, well, it's Lord of the Rings, so you're saying Half-Blood Prince is right up there with them.
I think so. This book goes beyond just fantasy, something for everyone, whatever age, whatever you're into.
I'm seriously thinking of bumping this one up my reading list. So many things I never even thought about.
And remember, it's not just one story. This sets up the big finish in Deathly Hallows. The ending here, total cliffhanger. You need to know what happens next.
Now I'm really hooked.
Yeah.
But before we go there, let's get back to this being a turning point for the series. What makes it different from the other books?
I think it's the mood and how deep the feelings go. The danger's bigger, characters face tougher stuff, and good versus evil, it gets murky, you know?
Like, give me an example of that murky good and evil that's always interesting in fantasy.
Okay, think about Snape. For 5 books, he's the bully, picks on Harry, but now we see hints of his past, like maybe his reasons aren't so simple.
True. Makes you rethink everything about him. Like Rowling saying, look deeper, people are complicated.
Exactly. That's what makes Half-Blood Prince get you thinking. What's loyalty? Sacrifice. The choices you make when things are impossible.
Okay, you've officially sold me. There's more to this book than meets the eye. But before we wrap up, gotta ask about the pacing. Some folks said we focus too much on, like, surface stuff, how it's written and all. So how would you describe the pacing in Half-Blood Prince?
It's perfect. Rowling mixes those intense action parts with quiet, thoughtful moments. It all flows really well, keeps you hooked the whole way through.
And the reviewer actually called it perfect, too. What do you think makes it work so well?
The way the story's put together, she handles all these different plot lines. Harry's journey, the mystery, Voldemort coming back, but it never feels rushed or messy. Every chapter makes you want to keep reading, and the whole thing builds to this climax that's, well, amazing, and it hits you right in the feels.
You're making it sound impossible to resist.
Yeah.
But I gotta play devil's advocate here. Some readers might be intimidated by these giant books, right? Over 600 pages. Is it really worth the commitment?
Oh, absolutely. Every page is full of details, interesting characters, a story that sticks with you. It's an investment for sure, but one that, really pays off.
You're making a strong case here, but I think it's time for your final verdict. For anyone still on the fence about reading Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, what's your closing argument? Why should they dive in?
Okay, if you're looking for, a total escape, a world of magic, but also things that make you think about life, love, loss, the big stuff, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is it, man. This story sticks with you even after you finish it.
I love that. You've made me see this book in a whole new way.
Yeah.
I bet our listeners are feeling the same.
Always happy to dig into these books. There's always something new there.
And for everyone listening, we want to hear from you. Have you read Half-Blood Prince? What stood out to you? Hit us up on the website, social media, all that.
Always love hearing what you guys think.
And hey, if you've got your own pile of articles, research, anything you want us to deep dive into, send it over. Always looking for new stuff to explore. So, until next time, happy reading.